Good evening and welcome to episode 347 of the Gersnet Podcast. I'm your host tonight, John McCallum. This is the preview podcast going out on Friday, 23rd of August 2024. It's just after 9 p.m. and we're looking ahead to the Ross County game. Now, remember, Gersnet is not just a podcast. Gersnet is forums, articles, social media and a history archive, and we would encourage you to subscribe or share on social media if you like what you hear. This is, of course, the Independent Rangers podcast made by fans for fans. Tonight, as I said, we'll look ahead to the Ross County match tomorrow with some maybe better news on the injury front and possibly even some good news off the pitch as well. So that's something for us to look forward to. So just before I introduce our guest tonight, I just need to chat about our sponsors, Forrest Precision Engineering, who are, of course, a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they have been a big commercial sponsor of Rangers for many, many years. And we are delighted that, once again, they're backing our pod this year. You can find out more about Forrest Precision Engineering by visiting their website, forrestprecisioneng.com. You might also be interested in the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, which is a lovely hospitality area within the main stand. And for information on how you would book that, please contact the club directly at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. So that's the formalities over with. Ben, it's nice to see you again tonight. Ben Harshaw, we've been on before. We were just talking. I couldn't remember if it was this season or last season. It turns out it was about 2 weeks ago. So that gives you an idea how my August has been. Ben, tell me, are you a bit upset tonight at the news that Raith Rovers have approached Linfield for David Healy as the manager's job, or could you not care less?
No, I'm a Linfield man actually. So no, I think it's probably not a bad thing. I think he was going to move at the end of the season anyway. His contract was up, and he's gone a wee bit stale in the job, I think. So probably the right time for him to move on.
There you go. Well, I see I'm a hatchet man myself, so I'm not. As North Belfast guys, I assumed you would be a Seaview boy as well. It just goes to show you. Anyway, let's move back across the Irish Sea and have a look at tomorrow's game with Ross County. So I don't know if you've caught much of the press conference and the reporting from that, but there's been kind of mixed team news. Probably more better than not so good. But as of tomorrow, just looking at the defence first, Ben, it looks like Proper is probably out. There were certainly hints that he would struggle to make it for tomorrow. The plus side being he would probably be fit for next weekend, which is good news. On the plus side, though, Balogun looks like he's fit and back in the squad. So with that in mind, and obviously with Redvan out, who do you see in defence tomorrow? Who do you think we're going to start?
Yeah, I think Tav obviously will keep his place at right back. Pleased to see Balogun come back because I didn't think Proper was going to make it. A little disappointed in Proper as you would like him to have had another game under his belt before we go across the city next week. But, you know, it is what it is. So Balogun for me would come in there is the obvious choice. But pleased to have him back. One, because Proper's out, but two, you know, it strengthens the squad in general.
Yeah.
John Suter will keep his place, and to be honest, I think John Suter started the season pretty well. So you know, I'm being impressed, and he will be important next week as well as this. And then obviously left back is again with Redvan being out, Robbie Fraser's inexperienced, so the obvious choice is Hefty or Jeffty, whatever way you want to say it.
I'm calling him Jeffty. I've got to say, I'm calling him Jeffty, and not just because I'm old and I'm a curmudgeon and I can't be bothered learning how to pronounce people's names properly. But actually, he's Brazilian, so his name is probably Portuguese. And in Portuguese, they pronounce the J. They go for the they don't do it's the Spanish that go for the H, and the Portuguese go for the J. So I'm going to go with Jeffty. Whatever it is he's actually pronouncing his name, I'm going with Jeffty.
I was wondering the way we started the season if we could maybe try and sneak Jeffty and Hefty on the pitch. But
listen, we've had a few Hefties on the pitch in my time watching Rangers, but yeah, we could. He had a good game last week, I thought. I mean, obviously, it was a cup game, so it was a slightly different game, but I was quite impressed with him last week. I thought he had a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I think overall there's been more good than bad from him. You know, and we have to remember as well, he's 20 years old. He's moving to a new country. He's only really had first team experience in Cyprus, which we would hope to be in a better league than that.
Yeah.
But there was concerns pre-season defensively, but I think defensively he's looked sharper. And at the end of the day, it's pre-season, that we're talking about, and it wouldn't be like the Rangers fan base to prejudge someone, but yeah, I think I've been impressed with him. He's not the finished article, but you buy a 20-year-old that's played in Cyprus, and you're not going to get the finished article, right?
No.
So we have to bear with him. He is the obvious choice, and I have been encouraged by what I've seen. He will need help from leadership, which is what we need in the team in general. But he can only grow from here, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting point you make about what to expect from a guy who's had one season really of first team football in Cyprus. It's like signing a guy from Ross County, frankly. It's like signing a guy from the first division or the Championship in Scotland and bringing him into our first team and expecting him to hit the ground running. I think he has an interesting pedigree, certainly back in Brazil. The club he was at. It's a world famous club, but that doesn't mean anything. You know yourself. A player can look great at 15, 16, and by the time they got to 20, for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out. So, like you, I saw him in pre-season and I was a little underwhelmed. And I did wonder if actually his position was maybe better up the park. I thought he was obviously very unlucky against Dynamo Kiev. And I thought he'd been playing quite well prior to that. But again, he'd been playing in a more advanced role. So I was pleasantly surprised last week. I thought, okay, that's actually quite decent. He did a good shift. And he linked up well with Matondo. The two of them were definitely, they made the left side more dangerous than the right hand side, which it's probably been a few seasons since we were able to say that.
Yeah, so when you look at our left side, our left side has been decimated at the start of the season. Cortez would be your first, choice left winger, presumably, and Yilmaz our left back. So, there is going to be teething problems there, but I did think Matondo and him worked well last week. And I think what's important as well, going into big games in a big week, is the fact that he did well in Europe, as you say, further forward. But it's important that last week he hopefully got a bit of confidence from the fact that he did play left back and get and do well and give a good account of himself. So hopefully that is a position that he can grow from. And he's not just, it's not like we're just going to end up throwing him in the next, I know I'm looking ahead to next week's game, as I'm sure many of us are, but, it's not like he's just being thrown in at left back, having only played in left midfield. So now he's had the experience of both. Hopefully last week's game and this week's game will allow him to get a bit more confidence. Because he's the obvious choice and the only choice really at this point. I was going
to say, he's not quite the only choice, but he's pretty close to it. No Davies in defence. You wouldn't see Davies keeping his position?
To be honest, if you asked me on Davies, I wouldn't necessarily have him in the squad.
You wouldn't even have him on the bench.
I do understand due to injuries that might be the case, but no, I don't think Davies is. I would rather have a young and upcoming person that there is hope with than Davies, who quite frankly I don't have much hope, and that's maybe putting it nicely.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. I think there's a number of people would continue there. Okay, moving into the midfield. Sterling is fit. I think Clement basically laughed off the rumours that he'd kind of broken his wrist and was going to be out for 6 months. So Clement is fit. Raskin back in training, but unlikely, I would have thought, to be considered for a start. I would think it's too soon for him. So can you see past Sterling, Diamonde and Barron? And when everyone is fit, is that our best midfield anyway?
Well, no is the obvious answer. No, I can't see past it. Whether it's our best right now, I think it is definitely. I would say that Raskin can certainly challenge for one of those positions.
Which one?
Of the season, at the start of the season, I would have probably had Raskin ahead of Barron. I liked Barron and was excited about the signing, but he has done a lot better than I expected. I expect him to be more of a squad player. But the shirt is his right now, without a shadow of a doubt, and he's probably, he's one of the first ones in that midfield right now.
Arguably, yeah.
Yeah, so it's up to Raskin to come in. I know some have maybe said that, Raskin came in, he had a good sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months towards the end of the season when he first came in. Disappointed last season. But I haven't totally given up. I do think as a player there, what we need from Raskin is to see consistent performances, but also just be consistently available and consistently fit. Because now don't get me wrong, his injury at this minute in time was due to a bad tackle. Not that, but he has had niggly wee injuries here and there throughout his time at Rangers, as have most players. But no, I still think that he could dovetail between either of those. Maybe given the one thing that we need competition. There's no point in having just Diamande and Barron say there and knowing they're going to play every week. So what we need to know is that if they step off it or they need a rest, Diamande's played every game so far this season, so there will come a point we're going to need a rest. So we need healthy competition, and we need
absolutely. We do, because inevitably there will be injuries. If not, there'll certainly be suspensions. Central midfielders pick up bookings. That's just part of it. So I don't think there's any doubt we need competition and alternatives in there. And like you say just now, it's difficult to see past those three, even if everybody was fit. But that in itself isn't healthy. You do need, we probably need at least one more midfielder that can come in and do a job in there. And I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen, but we'll come to that. Moving up, sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think the fact, yes, you can't look past that three, which is one is a sort of a credit to them, but it's also kind of an indictment of the lack of faith that I have in our tens as we know them. So I'd rather have the three in the midfield than be playing like a Tom Lawrence in there, who I think can make an impact from time to time, but I think we've seen it too many times that the game passes him by, and I think we need a little bit more creativity and a little bit more quality up there to make the real case to not play those three in the midfield.
He doesn't make enough of an impact. I think he is still pretty much most games. He'll have a moment. There'll be a pass. There'll be a drift inside. There'll be something, but he doesn't, for the undoubted ability he has. He doesn't influence games enough, and that's the challenge. Now, whether if he had different players around him, who knows? But he doesn't influence games enough just now. But we'll see. I was going to start with Dessers and the assumption that Clement will start with him as well. Do you see do you see Dessers coming back into the team straight from kickoff? Do you see Danilo retaining the jersey? Danilo got a good run out last week. He looked rusty. Yeah. I actually thought his link-up play wasn't too bad. I thought that side he was getting, but he looked very rusty in the box. He didn't look like he knew where the goal was. Bit short of confidence, as you would expect for somebody who's played 5 games of football in a season. And then when Dessers come on, Dessers looked the opposite. I thought he took his goal well. He gave the defence something to think about, but his link-up play wasn't great, as it never is, or rarely is. It's unfair to say never. So do you think Dessers comes straight back into the team?
Yes, I do. I think you have to. I would hope, ideal scenario, that we're 2-3 goals up with 20 minutes to go and you can get Danilo some more minutes. I think you've got to go with the informed striker from the start. Try and hopefully get him a goal, and get the team a goal, and then build from there. And then you're looking towards the end of the game to be introducing players that need minutes. But I think the most important thing is we go out there and take care of business, and you do that by playing your informed striker, by playing your strongest team from the off, no matter the opposition. Yeah,
and who else have you got at the team then? Who's supporting Dessers up front?
Yeah, I've Turney obviously on the right, and then I was impressed with Matondo last week. I must say again, end product is always questionable. So I thought he did make a good. He was a handful, and he used the ball well up until the final execution, which obviously is important, is the most important. But I was impressed with him. However, I would probably be going Ross McCausland. I think he has. I think he was good when he came on last week. He, took a goal well as well. And I think I've been reasonably impressed with him for most of his performances. And yes, I know he would be playing on the left, which isn't what he's used to. However, I think that he will give you what he gives you, which is he will give you 100% running. He will give you effort. He'll give you pace. He'll work back really, really well. Also, if needed, hopefully at home to Ross County, it's not needed too much. But no, I think Ross deserves a start at this stage. And I know Scott Wright has been starting as well, but he's I think more or less ruled out. I think they said doubtful, but I can't see him playing. So I'd be going for Ross from the start, and with an idea again, bringing Matondo on with last sort of 25, 30 minutes, either if we are in a position where we need something, or if we have the game won, which obviously, which I'd rather.
There's been speculation in the last couple of days of Blackburn being interested in Matondo. Does that play on the manager's mind? I say this, and I don't mean to giggle, but with his injury record, it would be just like the thing. That somebody's willing to come along and buy him, and he then picks up an injury in a game. But at the same time, we have to win. It's all very well looking at that, but ultimately, you still got to put your best team out. You still have to try and win this game. Ross County will make it difficult. Do you think that does make a difference to the choice tomorrow? Does that make him decide not to play, or how does that work?
Well, I think obviously Philippe Clement is in a better position than us because he knows whether that is just speculation or whether there is something in it. And I think if there's something in it and he really thinks, okay, Rabbi Matondo's going to leave the club in the next week, I don't think he's necessarily going to start him then. However, if it's total nonsense and it's not going to happen, then it's not going to impact it. And I think Clement seems to me to be the type of manager also that he doesn't seem to look too far ahead. He seems to take each game as it comes, and I think he's going to put out the team that he thinks is going to win. Whether it's realistic that he may not have a long-term future or may not be his favourite first choice player. But I suppose if he knows on Monday morning he is 100% signing for Blackburn or someone else, you wouldn't expect to see him. So the manager will know on and
he'll have a far better idea. Absolutely. So with the news that Raskin and Proper should be fit for next week, that's obviously a bit of a boost. Plus, we heard that the lesser spotted Igamani has been in training all week with the first team, and that Cortez should return to training next week as well. I guess my question is: do we overreact to inevitable injuries that all teams pick up? Or do you think we're still injury prone? Do you think we're still picking up more than our fair share of injuries?
I think there's a bit of yes and no in it, to be honest with you. I think, if you look at the injuries individually, as I touched on earlier, Raskan's was a bad tackle. A bad tackle can happen to any player in any league, or league as it was. So can you do anything about that? No. I do think there's something in the amount of muscular injuries that we're picking up, without being a sports scientist or a doctor or anything, I must add. But I do think that we have, over the last year, couple of years, maybe longer, have picked up a lot of those sort of muscular injuries. They haven't typically been impact injuries that we've been suffering. Although Danilo's was due to a tackle with impact at the end of last season at the end of the year in December against Hearts. But I suppose when you look at Cortez was unlucky, but when you've been out for such a long time and you're such a quick player, it is going to happen that you're going to pick up. Maybe you'd expect to pick up lesser injuries that you'd only be out for a week or so, a wee strain or here or there. But there is possibly something in it. But at the same time, pre-season is just over, and some players will pick up injuries at the start of the season. It's more likely to me to happen at the start of the season. It shouldn't necessarily be happening once you've got into your flow as such, with the exception of obviously heavy pitches in the winter and stuff. But yes, I think there's something in it, but I also think that there's been an element of luck involved. I think it's highlighted more with us because of the lack of quality within the squad, the depth.
Yeah. You miss a player when they're out then, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, man.
Rivals across the city could get 2 or 3 injuries and bring in 2 or 3 players that are equally as good or close to. We don't have that luxury. So when we lose a Cortez, we're struggling to decide who plays. When we lose a Rascan, we have literally got Baron and Diamande and Raheem Sterling in his centre, and Sterling.
What do you know that we don't know?
Sterling, if he is fit, which is the problem. So I think it's highlighted more due to the problems that we have within the squad and due to the lack of depth.
Yeah. Looking at our opposition tomorrow, Ross County have drawn both their league games this season so far. But they had a pretty embarrassing defeat last weekend at Spartans in the Cup, which you have to assume that they have been getting pelters all week in training. They will be desperate to get that game out of their system. They've been, the last 2 seasons they've been involved in the playoffs. They've scraped out of relegation in the skin of their teeth. In some cases with the last kick of the ball of the season. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, are they more dangerous because of that loss last week, or actually are they just a team that is on the way down? They've been kind of circling the ball now for a couple of seasons, and at Hampden, big open team, big open pitches, should they prove to be no problem for us as a club?
I mean, they should prove to be no problem. There's no doubt about that. However, when we went up there the last time we played them, I felt the same and thought, with 3 points in the bag, and things didn't go to plan, as we all know. So yes, you would like to think from their point of view that they would be looking for a reaction from that Spartans game. However, they probably are looking for a reaction and looking at the fixture and wishing they were playing one of the teams near them in the division rather than playing ourselves. And particularly away from home. But I do think that we should without a doubt have too much for them, and I think ultimately they can be wanting a reaction. They can be trying to raise their game. They can be trying to prove things after last week or after the start of the season. But ultimately, them raising their level should not be quality that should really trouble us, particularly on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean the two league games we've played this season are Motherwell and Dundee United. Dundee United, obviously, having just got promoted, and Motherwell, who we have played ourselves. It's hard to gauge what level they're at, but I don't think anyone's expecting them to do anything other than fight relegation again this season. They have brought in a couple of players, and they've got a couple of players back fit again. But all being well. Everybody turns up to play. We should have too much for them, and you have to expect that. It's been funny weather in Glasgow. We've had our share of rain, shall we say? But the pitch should still be okay. I don't think there's any danger of it being too heavy a pitch. Hampden drains quite well. So yeah, really at this stage you have to say no excuses. 3 points and.
Especially with a week of training, and obviously we wanted to be in Europe still, in the Champions League still, but it's actually been good also to not have a midweek game for the first time in a few weeks.
Exactly.
So expecting to see a performance too.
Silver lining. Looking at the squad, this time next week the transfer window will close just a couple of hours' time. Do you expect much to happen in the next 7 days, Rangers wise?
Whether I expect or I think it's more hope at this stage. I do think I expect minimum another 3 to come in, and hoping for at least a couple to go out. I think I'd be very surprised if we didn't do at least that. We can take off our blue glasses here and be honest and say, if we go in for the rest of the season as we are now, we're not good enough to compete to win the league. I can't make a case for it, I'm afraid. because we do have decent players in there, but we're also, as we've touched upon, a couple of injuries to a couple of key players, and so I expect quality to be brought into the squad, as well as hopefully somebody that will be able to come into the starting lineup as well. So I'm hopeful, and would be surprised if there isn't some movement.
Yeah, I mean, it would be negligent if Hadji isn't moved on, because he's clearly so far out the picture. And there do seem to be teams that want him. I imagine his wages are a stumbling block, but it would be surprising if he can't be moved on. It would also be surprising if nobody in England fancied Cantwell, even if it's on loan. Cantwell is a decent player. If somebody can figure out how to manage him, there's definitely a player in there. And at a certain level, he could be very effective. And with the money that's in English football, you would think somebody down there would fancy a crack at him. So, those two especially, you'd think surely someone will come in and make a bid.
Today as well, Birmingham, I think it was.
So, what, I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Ben Davies is strongly linked to Birmingham today.
Right. Okay. So again, it's big salaries on there. That's the stumbling block. But Birmingham is exactly the kind of club I think he could probably do quite well at.
League One, but they have backing American owners, I think, and they have decent money. I don't think the wages would be a problem, and I think he would do well. He's not terrible. I just don't necessarily think he has the mentality or is what we need.
Yeah.
But I wish these players the best if they can get a move. Yeah. I really do. Campbell is moved on. At the end of the day, if he doesn't want to play for Rangers, then he won't play for a bigger club ever again. So
no, I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so either.
I would hope that I thought Saudi, there would be somebody in Saudi would have had interest even in him. But you would hope someone is. There is a footballer in there. It's just getting all the other stuff in order. But yeah, I would think with one or two out and the squad will look quite different, and hopefully give us a bit more optimism.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Off the park, we've not had a huge amount to be talking about, at least not in a positive way. It feels like all summer. All we've done is complain and moan about what's been going on off the park. But for once, it sounds like we might have had some better news. Earlier in the week, we heard that the kind of ongoing court case with Elite regarding the Hummel shirt deal that we'd had has now been settled. Now, I don't know if that's good news or not. That might be why we're not buying a new centre forward. I really don't know. But it's at least good it's been settled. It's no longer hanging over us. So that's something. And then the last kind of 24 hours, we've started to hear that Ibrox is getting much closer to being. So that's my dog decided to. She wants to add in her tuppence. Well, she's delighted as well to hear some good news off the park at once. But we've also had a suggestion that Ibrox might be much closer to being ready than we perhaps all suspected was the case. Now, I am not an expert on building, but I see the crane seems to have gone, which suggests that the bigger work that was holding things up has now been completed, and I guess now they're into the different type of work. So it would be good if that can herald some potentially much better news. That would be much better news, and that would be great as well. Look, maybe it's one of these things that's probably a question that I should ask in February and we can look back on. But do you think this could be a turning point for us? Is this after what has been a fairly depressing summer for most of us after losing the Scottish Cup final and a less than satisfactory summer in terms of transfers, a poor pre-season in terms of games, a sluggish start to the season? A return to Ibrox and could maybe just be the tonic we all need?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it could give us a boost. I think, when a Conor Barron or anyone signs for Rangers, they don't sign for us to play at Hampden. They do in the end of the season, but sign for They want to play at Ibrox. We all talk about the atmosphere. We all talk about that. So it'll give those players a boost. He's played for Rangers. He's making a bit of a name for himself. And he hasn't played at Ibrox yet for us. So
that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
They're going to encourage the fans. However, on the other side of it, it only goes so far. The stuff off the pitch is great. It will help us. But if we go to Ibrox and the team is rubbish and we've done nothing else in the transfer market, that boost will only last so long, won't it? But I don't know if I'm glass half full or empty at the minute. But yeah, no, there's no doubt it's great. It's what we wanted. When we were first out, we were all starting to think, it'll be Christmas. It'll be, we were, of course, merchants of doom. But
yeah,
there wasn't enough. Let's be honest, there wasn't enough communication to tell us otherwise. And when that is the case, the worst case is gonna spiral.
Yeah, I think we've become inured over the years, and we just now assume the worst. If someone tells us it'll be September, we just go, so it will. And perhaps, to be fair, it may be that the directors themselves didn't know. In the end, if they're waiting for some boat to come in from the Far East, it comes in when it comes in, and there's very little any of us can do to influence that. But fingers crossed that this might be the start of some good luck, because I don't think we've had much in the last 12 months. So this might be the start of some good luck, and a return to Ibrox would make a huge difference.
This could be the start of the big week. To talk to the return to Ibrox, hopefully do the business tomorrow, get something in the transfer market this week, and hopefully get a positive result next week, and then the season could look very different. So exactly,
and that's all it needs. It just needs a couple of good results, and suddenly we all view things very, very differently. And of course, it's not just us that have a transfer window. There's been a fair bit of speculation about players across the city, and potential for them to be losing some players. Whether they'll be able to replace them like for like, who knows? We'll just have to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens this time next week. Listen, thanks for your time on a Friday night. Appreciate you giving it up. Come and spend it talking to an old duffer like me. That's very good of you. And fingers crossed. When will you next be on this side of the Irish Sea for a game, do you think?
I'm looking at a couple next month, so I'm still trying to get the okay from the wife. But we'll see what's what. But
yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise the sacrifice and the expense involved in coming to watch Rangers, if you're particularly having to travel over from Northern Ireland, and the cost of the ferries these days, even the flights, the days of getting a £10 return are long gone. It just doesn't happen.
The Hampden factor did play into it. I was really waiting for us to get back to Ibrox, because don't love Hampden as
no.
None of us really.
No, I don't think anybody loves Hampden.
The travel and all that, I just wait until we're back at home.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer, Ben. Thanks for your time tonight. If I could just remind everybody else that the website, as long as Frankie can work his machines properly in the morning, the website will be available on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and of course Spotify. There will be a podcast on Sunday night. I believe Craig, Colin Armstrong, and Chris Jack are your star-studded lineup for that. So be sure to tune in. Again, thanks for watching. Please, if you enjoy what you're hearing, please do subscribe and tell people about it. And in the meantime, have a great weekend.